The Short Game is listener-supported on Patreon. If you'd like to support the show and join us on our Discord, head to theshortgame.net or patreon.com/theshortgame.
Welcome back to The Short Game, a show about short video games and games that respect your time. I'm your host, Shane Kelly, and I'm joined by three wonderful co-hosts this week. First is our Seattle-based podcast and radio producer, Mark Bramhill. Mark is the creator of the excellent podcast, Welcome to Macintosh, which I love very much, a podcast about Apple and its impact on our culture. And he's also the creator of the emoji person in lotus position, aka the yoga emoji, and a producer for Bird Note, a daily radio program about birds. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Shane. Glad to be back.
You didn't mention the very most important thing about Mark, which is that he occasionally guests on our Bird Week episodes and is our bird correspondent. Thank you, Mark.
Bird and Apple correspondent.
Yes.
It seems like we have some kind of theme there, like Apple, bird. We need like a C thing to keep going through the alphabet. We also have a first-time guest on the show this week. We have my fellow Houstonian, Anna Delos Angeles. Anna is a freelance artist and designer and does marketing and community coordination for Coral Sword, a local games cafe and one of my favorite places to be. Hi, Anna.
Aw, thanks, Shane. Hi, this is my first ever podcast recording, so I'm very honored to be invited on this to talk about Animal Crossing. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I am super excited to talk about Animal Crossing. And as usual, we are also joined by my brother and identical twin, Raygan Kelly.
Howdy, y'all.
Raygan.
I'm basically just here to listen and ask questions since I haven't played the new Animal Crossing, so that's why we have these wonderful guests to cover for me.
Raygan loves games like this, but I think he only really likes games that have romance. And because this game has no romance in it, I think he finds it to be... what would you say? Would you say that's accurate, Raygan? Like, you only love
if I can't date the ducks, I don't want the game.
Yeah.
Not with that attitude.
Well, we'll be getting into all of our favorite ducks once we start discussing some of the attributes and aspects of this wonderful, amazing game. But first, let's talk a little bit about why we are covering this. So first, I want to mention that The Short Game has a Patreon, and through that Patreon, we have a lot of our wonderful listeners participating in a Discord where we're able to greet each other and chat about what's going on in this wild world that we're experiencing right now. And this episode really in particular bubbled up from that Patreon because
it was all anyone was talking about. It was really the only thing that anyone was talking about.
I wasn't really planning to even play this game because usually I don't have room in my life for a 100-hour island design simulator.
The Short Game.
Yeah, this is The Short Game. We talk about games that are short, usually that you can finish in 10 hours or less. So it's a little different that we're talking about Animal Crossing on this show. So first off, I do want to plug that Patreon. If you want to participate in discussion around this game or the other games that we
cover.
First,
you just need to get our friend code, and then we need to open the gates on our Discord. And then you need to go to your local airport and speak to the dodo,
yeah.
And get on the flight to the Short Game Discord.
Yes, at the end of the episode, we'll be giving out the dodo code for the Discord. And if you try and get into the Discord and you can't, it's probably because I had my phone out. So it'll get blocked at that time.
And remember,
so
you have to wait for everyone to join separately, individually, on a 3-minute loading screen before you can also join.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody
absolutely.
else
Ask
has
a
to wait
parent's
for you to
permission
join.
also.
Mm-hmm.
And once you're connected with our Discord, we can send each other letters.
So, with that digression into the beautiful networking code that Nintendo puts out consistently and has for years and years. Let's talk about why this game right now. I think this is an odd situation we're all in. We're recording this, for those of you who may be listening in the distant future, when the world has been pieced back together. We are recording this during the early days of the COVID-19 crisis. So
is this really
this
the early days?
Is a very different time for all of us.
I think that's the pretty realistic view, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, taking the long view. And different times sometimes mean we have a different relationship to games. And for me personally, that's true. That I'm looking for different things in games right now than I am normally. We did recently put out a kind of a quick episode on what we called comfort food games, and this kind of came up a little bit during that time. So why are we covering something right now that you can put a literally unlimited amount of time into on the short game? We like to talk on this show about how games fit into your life. And for me, as a busy person who has a job and stuff, usually that means I'm looking for the short stuff that I can kind of squeeze in. But sometimes my relationship to games changes. I never expected it to be like this, and here I am in a moment where all I want is the calm and predictability and kind of gentle progression of an Animal Crossing game. So how is this game fitting into your survival and coping mechanisms right now, guys? Let's start with Anna.
So I think it's really interesting that you mentioned that you didn't think this would become such a big deal for you. I find that I'm hearing a lot of people are saying the same thing. Like people who don't normally play games like Animal Crossing are saying, you know, they just got it because everyone else was playing it and it's all they hear about anywhere they go on the internet. And then they fall into the deep, deep hole of Nook Inc.'s loans and island life and island getaway and island hopping. And for me, it's, you know, I've never actually played Animal Crossing, but I've been told time and time again that it's something I would really enjoy. I picked up Pocket Camp whenever it came out, and I thought, you know, this is really cute, and people are right. I like things that are cute, so this fits in pretty well. And when I started playing the game, you know, I'll be honest, it like became my entire life. And it, you know, yeah, it's the whole slow process of it is for me pretty alluring because I like having to wait, you know, a whole day for a building to go up or something like that. I have a couple friends who do the whole time traveling thing. But I told them, I was like, it's my first time playing Animal Crossing and I need it to be slow because I'll be honest, it like gives me a reason to get up every morning when it's like, oh man, today my Nook store is going to be up, or today my Able Sisters is going up. That's fun. Hop out of bed.
Yeah.
Go to see what's new in town. My new neighbors are moving in. So that's kind of how it's fitting in. I think I'm finally coming out of the like deep hole where I'm like having to play it for pretty much the entire day. And now I'm like, I can take it more at a, you know, manageable pace. AKA I beat the game. So I defeated the
I was
final
shocked
boss.
to learn that this game even had credits, actually.
Yeah.
What counts as beating the game in this context? I really don't even know what that would mean.
The thing is, like, is that a spoiler to say? But
I don't
feel
think
like
so.
it.
okay.
Isn't.
So basically, I wasn't expecting the credits to roll this morning, but I guess the final boss, quote unquote, is inviting KK Slider, internationally renowned musician.
Singing dog, yeah.
Singing dog, yeah, that's a singing dog you see everywhere. To the island, and then he holds a little concert. And then when the little concert happens, the credits start to roll, and I was like, oh my god, did I beat the game? And then after that, it's just kind of like a sandbox mode where Tom Nook is even like, I don't really have anything for you to do, so I'll just let you do whatever you want.
Then it's
Enjoy.
New Game Plus.
Yeah, sandbox mode.
And that's what I really like about Animal Crossing is it's this game that has an open-ended, self-directed set of goals. I have played lots of games that kind of have that. and none of them are games I've really been able to discuss on this show. So, for example, I got really super deep into No Man's Sky, and I also got super into Minecraft as well, like back in the day. So, and these are both games where you're able to just have this continual progression. Something I read recently, I found this article. It was on Polygon about why people are connecting with this game right now, and it brings up this idea. I used the term earlier, gentle progression, and I just want to give a little quote from this. It says, "I'd love it if we could stop referring to the work people put into the games designed this way," they're referring to games of this type, "as grind, and start calling it a more accurate term, gentle progression. Games that feature gentle progression give us a sense of progress and achievability, teaching us that putting in a little work consistently while taking things one step at a time can give us fantastic results. It's a good life lesson, as well as a way to calm yourself and others, achieved through game design."
Yeah.
And that's actually why this is the kind of game I play a lot of times to relax. If we're playing something for the show, and it's like something intense with like button mashing action, like we did Katana Zero recently, I would find myself going and playing some No Man's Sky, to wind down after that. So this is truly a wind down game for me. How's it fitting for you, Mark? Mark and I were really into Pocket Camp for a little while.
Yeah. So I definitely knew I was going to be playing a lot of this game over a year ago. Animal Crossing was my favorite game growing up. I think I've played all the main versions of the game, from the GameCube to the DS, more recent are the Wii, and sunk ungodly numbers of hours into those, which, especially as a child, you are free to do. You don't have anything better to be doing. But when I knew that one was being made for the Switch and I heard about it, even before I had a Switch, it was like, if I don't have one by then, I'm buying it for this game. It's funny that the game was actually delayed something like 6 months of when it was supposed to come out.
They were waiting for the virus. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it's they could not have had it come out at a better time. In that, I knew I was going to love this game and spend a lot of time playing it, but I didn't anticipate it being something where that gentle progression, that sort of, relaxingness of it would be so needed, and that it really would fit in perfectly to, it seems like, so many people's lives. That it's a really wonderful escape, that like the whole concept of this one especially is like you're escaping to this deserted island, and it really is the perfect game for this moment that we're in.
I had this moment when I first started up the game, where I had actually just been like not able to sleep because I was reading the news, because that's a smart thing to do. And I booted up the game, and this intro video plays where it's showing you the allure of getaway island life, kind of deserted island. You don't have to worry about anything. You can start from scratch, and it really hit me different in a way that I don't think it would have without everything going on in the world. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and I always wonder if other people had a similar reaction where it was like, this is so great compared to everything else.
Do you remember what it's like to go outdoors?
To feel the sun on your face?
I actually had a similar reaction, and it hit for me because this was going to be my vacation week. Like I was literally going to be in a resort in Mexico right now, and that was all canceled.
Wow.
Sorry, buddy. And so, give me a little taste of that. Taste of that back.
Just build the resort that you were going to stay at.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
Trying to build the most beautiful island getaway I can, and I'm really enjoying that design aspect of it more than I remembered from previous games. I want to talk a little bit about the history of Animal Crossing as a series, because I'd like to check with each of you guys where you have dipped in and out. for me personally, I did not get to play the very first Animal Crossing, which Animal Crossing 1 was a release initially for the Nintendo 64 in Japan that they then ported. It was a late release for N64.
Wasn't it N64DD, the like magnetic disk drive system for the 64?
Yes, it was. I believe it used the disk drive and it was Japan only.
Yeah,
and then
that never came out here. So
shortly thereafter, they ported it to the GameCube. And Mark, I think you were saying you played that GameCube version.
Yeah, I remember playing that as a kid with a number of friends, and I got just so into it. And I can remember just spending hours sitting on the couch just playing playing that one and thinking it was just the most fun thing ever. Trying to catch all the fish, being really excited when I caught a coelacanth. I remember at one point then there was a power surge or whatever right after I had caught my first one, and I was just devastated. But no, it was a really fun game that, you know, especially with
at the time it was very different.
Yeah,
from a lot of this. We're talking about 2000. This game, especially when you're looking at things that are like console games, there just weren't that many games out there that had even the kind of basically persistent world that this game had. And one of the big selling features of the game at the time are a lot of the same things that carry through to today. So I want to, as we go here, I want to talk a little bit about what makes an Animal Crossing game. So one of the things that very first game had was a real-time clock. And I think even on the N64, they achieved that with like a special chip in the cartridge or something like that. But this was a game that like things went on even while you weren't playing it, and you'd turn it on and you would, it would be, if it was nighttime where you are, it would be nighttime in the game, and different things would be happening in your town at different times, and that's kind of carried through. And they had, for that reason, that introduced into the game this whole idea of like the time traveling. Shame on you, time travelers. Wrong way to play the game. You're having fun the wrong way.
Normally, time traveling sounds extremely cool and good, but in this case, maybe not so much.
So yeah, you could adjust the time on your console or things like that. Another thing that has carried through is this idea of like a persistent world and the ability to kind of design your space, which I don't know when The Sims came out, but
it was
basically
the same year. I think it came out in 2000, 2001,
yeah.
Very, very close together.
Yeah, so both really kind of converging on this same idea of like building your own living space as something that's a fun game design. And I mean, that has carried through. There's so many games today that people play that have this same kind of tech in there.
It feels a bit like every single phone game with, exploitative gotcha mechanics and whatnot has some kind of a system whereby you collect things to design your house or clothes or, whatever it is that the game is sort of themed around.
Right, there's a lot of that in mobile today, and there's a game out there that I actually have really come around on it. I at first I was skeptical, but having watched my wife play Covet on the iPhone. Covet is a design game, or like a it's hard to even explain, but basically you're collecting clothes and making outfits, and it's a social game. Like you get into groups and you can use each other's clothes, and you make these like design houses, and you vote on whose outfit is best, and you get points based on your ranking. But like the idea of collecting and designing your character and your clothes and your outfits actually goes all the way back in this game too, and it's so well implemented in the latest one. I wanted to keep running through the different versions of Animal Crossing before I get too far into what it is today. I started playing with Wild World. I'm trying to pronounce not Wide World, but Wild World, which was a 2005 Nintendo DS game. This was the second Animal Crossing. And that's the only other one I have played, with the exception of Pocket Camp. This is sort of a spin-off.
Where did the Wii one come in?
That was City Folk, which was in 2008.
I think City Folk was pretty widely agreed to be a bit of a miss, and it was a fine game, but it did not have the same spark, I think, that the other ones did. It was definitely the least favorably received of the Animal Crossing main series. It didn't introduce much in the way of new mechanics, or the ones that it did, people weren't that into. And I think
but it did have this idea of like a city for you to go to, and that was really neat. Yeah. And then there's New Leaf. Did anybody here play New Leaf? I don't know very much at all about New Leaf.
I'm mixing them up.
That was on the 3DS.
Okay, yeah. So I played some of that one. I initially bought it thinking that my wife would play it, because there was a time where she was looking for something to do, and I thought, hey, this seems like something she'd probably enjoy based on other games she's liked. So I bought her a copy, and here you go. And she never even opened it. So I did play it myself some. But I don't think I got very far with it. I think it was just like, at the time, the 3DS was something that I mostly just got out to play RPGs. And I guess while this, you could argue that this is an RPG, I think it sort of wasn't scratching that itch for me. So I didn't really go back to it very often. And I think all of my plants withered and died, and all of my villagers moved away. And when I open it up now, it's just a bunch of dry bones sitting in a pile. An angry
well, you can donate those to the museum.
Around. Yeah.
I actually I played this one as well, but I came to it super late because I personally never had a 3DS. I didn't have like an actual console of any kind between the Wii and then getting the Switch last fall. But I realized when I heard that New Horizons was going to be made for the Switch, and thinking, oh, that'll be so cool, and it'll be a year before that's out. Then I realized that my girlfriend has a 3DS and a copy of New Leaf that are just sitting on a shelf, not being used, and she let me play that. And last summer, I sank a ton of time into playing that, where nobody else was playing New Leaf at that point, but it was really fun and exciting to revisit and see the ways that you're in that one, they introduced this thing where you are the mayor of the town, and so you're able to enact lots of infrastructure and customize the space in a way that felt really refreshing and like a huge improvement over, in the first one, you get a randomly generated town and you are stuck with it. You have nothing that you can do to change it. You can customize your house, but the 4 houses are in one little courtyard that you don't get to choose anything about. And there's just a lot of limitations. And each one has introduced flexibility. And with New Leaf, I think it was really exciting that, I can build new shops, I can choose where they go, and I think it felt like, wow, this is crazy how much better this is than the original one.
It was also in New Leaf where, because you were mayor, they introduced this character to be your assistant as the mayor, and that is Isabelle. And Isabelle has kind of gone on to be the new face of Animal Crossing. I think in the original games, Tom Nook, who kind of was everything to the game. He was he was the progression. He was he ran the shop and everything.
He's the Bowser of Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
That's pretty accurate.
He kind of gates your progression, but Isabelle is there to further your progression and help you, and is super cute, is just a super cute design. And I think for that reason, Isabelle is the new face of Animal Crossing and has become the Animal Crossing character that made it into Smash Brothers. And
can you imagine if Tom Nook was in Smash instead of Isabelle?
I cannot. Somehow I cannot.
Yeah, and in Mario Kart as well. She is just instantly became like, this is the Animal Crossing character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could have been any of them in Smash and Animal Crossing. It could have been KK Slider, but
which kind of would have made sense for Mario Kart.
Yeah. But having this little what kind of dog is she even? Like a poodle?
I think she's supposed to be a golden retriever.
You think?
Or
With
both.
that little fluffy bun.
I'm gonna Google it.
She could be a golden doodle, I think.
Yeah.
Why not?
She looks
both?
like a golden doodle. And of course, we'll talk a little bit more about characters as we go, but I do think that's an innovation.
Isabelle is a nearsighted, bright yellow dog who resembles a Shih Tzu, which her Japanese name, Shizu or Shizue, is a play on. So maybe she's a Shih Tzu.
Oh, interesting.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I guess they do. They do usually have the little like ponytail when they're groomed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's to you, Isabelle. So as I don't even really think we need to talk too much about most of these spin-off games.
Nah.
Because mostly they haven't been super well received. Happy Home Designer has some fans. I don't know that much about it.
Me neither.
Amiibo Festival wasn't super well received. And then there's Pocket Camp, which was okay, but it is still, it's Nintendo trying to figure out how to make money on a mobile game, which doesn't feel super Animal Crossing to me.
No.
Right. Well, Pocket Camp was actually the first, I guess, Animal Crossing quote-unquote game that I played. And I played it for a little bit when it came out in 2017 and, just kind of fell off of it as time went on. And then I actually picked it back up in the month before New Horizons released because I was kind of feeling that, like, I need Animal Crossing. It looks like so much fun, but it's not out. So I'm just going to re-download Pocket Camp and see what happens, and kind of just fell deep into that hole again. And especially when I learned that there were going to be kind of like crossover items, I actually really liked it in that like little month that I played, because it sort of, for me who's never played any other Animal Crossing, it kind of introduced me to a lot of characters that I otherwise wouldn't really know about. And it got me excited when I later on find these animals in random islands in New Horizons, because I was like, hey, I actually know who that is.
I think one of the things I like the most about the way that Nintendo has managed the Animal Crossing series is that they've got all these sort of persistent characters, and all of the characters are pretty light, but they have the basic personality types and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've played one Animal Crossing game and you go and play another one, there is a better than average chance that you're going to run into a villager that you encountered in one of the other games, and it kind of makes it feel like these things are all connected more than they might otherwise seem, that there's a sort of a shared world here. And it, people like visiting their friends. There's particularly right now, there is nothing more powerful than wanting to visit your friends. And not only is like every Animal Crossing game kind of about every day dipping into the game to visit your friends, if they are friends that you remember from a game you might have literally played when you were a child, and here they are again, then suddenly that's a whole new level of that. So I really love that.
Totally
about how
powerful.
they've got a large cast. Everybody ends up with slightly different selection of villagers. So you can say, oh, I have so and so in my game. Oh, I have this other character in my game. It kind of provides that level of like, I mean, it's not quite like Pokemon or anything, but it's like who's got which villagers is a thing to constantly talk about with other people. And I remember this character from when I played the 3DS game. I really hope they show up in my town, that kind of thing.
And that kind of connection with the characters is one of the hallmarks of the game, but also connecting with other players is something that even all the way back to the very original version is something that is a consistent part of these Animal Crossing games. Even in the GameCube version, you could take your memory card, and there was a special memory card that would ship with the GameCube version, and you could take it to a friend's house who had the game, and you could plug it into their console, and you could visit each other's island, you could trade things, and villagers would move from your island to their island and vice versa when you did that. So that is one of the places where I think they've come the farthest, because we don't have to physically hand off memory cards anymore, but it is still, given our jokes at the start, one of the places where I am prepared to give Nintendo a bit of a pass on their internet stuff. It's just a very Nintendo networking system. You're going to be using friend codes.
Every single thing that Nintendo does when it comes to online is with the assumption that every single player is, every online interaction is potentially happening between a 5-year-old and a 45-year-old pederast. So every single interaction has to be like mediated and carefully designed to avoid any situations that would put people or put children at risk or create embarrassing situations for Nintendo. So yeah, I get it. I don't think I give them a pass on it though. Like there's every other platform in the world has figured out how to do things like this, even with games that aren't that different from this, without constantly putting up barriers that seem completely arbitrary. Like like the thing about if you're in a menu, somebody can't join your game. Like why on earth would that be a thing, right? Some of this I imagine might get patched out with time. They do tend to support these games for a really long time, but like, I don't know, a lot of this is a by design way of thinking that Nintendo has about online interactions that is just, I don't give them a pass about it.
It's extremely conservative, I think, in terms of what they want people to be able to do.
Right.
So.
I understand why they do it this way, and I gotta say, having played all the previous versions of the main game, this is significantly better than any of those, which more just speaks to how bad the previous games were.
Yeah.
Where you had to have a really long string of letters and numbers to be able to visit each time, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh my God.
Local multiplayer worked okay on the DS, but if you wanted to do anything online, it was almost next to unusable. And the fact that there are long loading screens and lots of menus to choose from, and you can't do that much with the thing, and you have to actually be messaging with your friend outside of the platform to let them know, this is me, I'm visiting your island.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating, and I think Nintendo still could have done a better job, but my expectations are very low. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if two people have added each other mutually to their friends lists, there should be no reason to, do almost any of the things that Nintendo does. Like once that opt-in has happened on both sides, like why bother with any of this stuff? It just doesn't make much sense to me. But I guess, I'm sure they have their reasons.
I think that with things like the Dodo codes, we can see them moving in the right direction, making it easy to, use outside connection systems like, Discords or text messaging or Twitter to announce that your island is ready for visitors and things like that. I don't want to dwell too much on how this game is a little weird on the internet. I want to talk about the core of the game that is super awesome and amazing and better than any previous version, which is just how customizable the game is and how the game really opens up to you slowly with more and more and more ways to build your perfect island experience.
yeah.
You have a lot of new things you can do, like down to the level of terraforming your island. And there's also, it feels to me like a much better and broader system for collectibles than we've ever had before. I'm almost allergic to collectibles in video games. Like if I see that a game wants me to start collecting things, I can tell that it really does not respect my time. But this is yet again something where I give Animal Crossing a total pass on. I will collect all the shit.
How are you enjoying those eggs then, huh, Shane?
I have gone all in on the Easter event. This is a very polarizing event.
You
Let's
mean
talk
Bunny
about
Day.
Bunny Day. Yeah.
Bunny Day. Yes, thank you. There's no Easter in Animal Crossing. There's only Bunny Day. Okay, so Anna, what is Bunny Day?
Bunny Day, I mean, it's Easter. And this vaguely horrifying rabbit shows
Absolutely
up.
horrifying.
Very horrifying rabbit shows up, so, kind of hopping around your island and tells you that he's hidden eggs all over the place, in the rocks, in the ground, in the water, in the sky, in the trees, literally everywhere. And
You're breathing the eggs.
Yeah.
He's really messing with
pretty
the
much.
local ecosystems.
And if
this
you don't
is
find them before they
invasive.
start going bad, the whole island is going to smell terrible.
And you basically have to collect these eggs and craft recipes that are given to you by your neighbors or by the bunny himself or by airdrop. By way of shooting down balloons from the sky that give you recipes. And on Bunny Day, which is April 12th, he'll show up. And if you have all of the items that are part of the event, then you get a special prize. And I don't know what the special prize is, but I kind of wonder if it's going to be worth it.
I'm really intrigued by that. So one of the nice things about the fact that these games have sort of persistent real-time clock-based, stuff is that they can do holiday events and activities. Your island or what have you can change throughout the year. But I think that doing these big event-style things like this is somewhat new to this particular one. Like, I know that in the previous games they would have a holiday things happen, but it would be just specifically on that particular holiday. It wouldn't be like, here's a whole week of bunny eggs.
Yes, and you're either
actually
there or
is-
you're not for those holidays.
Which it's pretty, I would say especially, it's a problem for a kid playing the game where Jingle the reindeer is there only on Christmas or Christmas Eve or whatever. And so, sorry, family, I really need to collect all this furniture right now.
Yeah.
I can't spend this time with you on this day, or I'm going to throw a fit because I want this special furniture that is kind of ugly. Whatever. It's something where it's like,
I think we're hearing the story here, actually.
Yeah, exactly. This is very much from my past. But then the fact that it is spread out over time, that you can do it a little bit each day rather than all at once. And I don't know if every holiday is going to be like this or just Bunny Day, but I think that is a smart change overall, especially for time-constrained players, that the game can be, you play for 10 minutes, 30 minutes a day or so, and that's fine. As opposed to, if you want to get all this themed furniture, you have to sink in like 6 hours on a holiday.
It is a game that is 100%, in terms of the gameplay, about collecting, right? That you are collecting fish, you're collecting fossils, you're collecting, you want all the fruit, you want all of the clothes and decorations for your house. And then it's about attractively displaying those collections. And this is something not a lot of games are about this, or like can successfully pull this off. I don't think the previous ones have let you do this. This game lets you customize the island a lot more by placing objects outside, things like that. So you can do pathways, and you can do like I've got a lawnmower in my yard, and I like to push it around like I'm mowing the lawn. And yeah, so I mean, this is a game that gives you all of these cool ways to build your space and interact with it. And then the neighbors on, collecting, you're even collecting the villagers to some extent. Your island isn't complete until you have all these houses filled and villagers moved in, and you've harassed out the ones that you don't like. Which, by the way, any tips on how to get rid of villagers that you don't like? I got this guy named Billy, and I just dislike Billy a lot. He's a goat. He's the jock personality type. So he's always talking about working out.
So I have seen a multitude of ways that people have bullied villagers out, and they're all hilarious. I've seen people fence their neighbors in so that they can't get out of their house, basically. And
Brilliant.
I've seen people, do the old-fashioned hit them with a net until they get upset and leave. But I think that, the fencing your neighbors in and putting signs outside their house saying go away or sending them rude mail, I think is really funny. And a little sad, but still really funny. Because I think there's two ways, right? There's, like I said, the physical harassment with the net, and then the emotional harassment or neglect by not talking to them because they can't get out of their house.
Yeah.
Those are the two ways that I know about.
I will be employing both of these strategies.
And I'm totally not looking into this because I want to bully someone out.
There are all these different personality types, and I think the jock personality type is just the one that my island will not support. But
There's no room for that in the ecosystem.
Yeah. Lazy, normal, peppy, jock, cranky, and snooty. And new in the newest games, sisterly, smug, and something called Otona, whatever that means. This is Japanese. So I want an island that is nothing but lazy people, and so I will be bullying everyone else out. But it's also like there's just a truly enormous amount of dialogue in this. They're responsive to like things that are going on around them, or they'll remember people that have visited your island and talk about them, or they'll see that you got stung by a wasp and they'll make fun of you for it. They'll remember items that you've given them and thank you. There's just a ton of dialogue in this game. It really is like a translation and localization triumph.
Yeah.
A lot of funny writing too.
They did a great job localizing the villagers' names as well. They all have, almost all of them have names like Billy the Billy Goat. Obviously, it's like they've done a good job of like doing culturally appropriate sort of
clever names.
Yeah, names that, because all of them have Billy's Japanese name is Ashindo. Like, I don't know, that's probably a pun in Japanese. I don't know what it means. But like they decided to rename him Billy for the American version, which, he's a goat and maybe he's like, I don't know, kind of a jockey guy. It sort of sounds like a fit for the name. And all of the characters that I've seen have names that sort of fit like that. Even if they're not necessarily puns, they just sort of, they put a lot of care into sort of designing the personalities and names and everything of these characters so that they feel like little sort of almost people.
Does anybody have any favorite villagers that they want to talk about?
This isn't my personal favorite in terms of like, would I want this villager on my island? But I've seen on my friend's islands this horse whose name is Renee, where the neigh is spelled like the neighing of a horse. So just on the topic of names, I think that one is kind of like,
yeah, that's pretty good.
But my favorite villagers, I'm actually really excited because I just finally was able to invite Bones to live on my island. And Bones is this cute little dog. And I love him because he reminds me of my own dog.
Aww.
So
he does look like your dog. Guys, you have to really see her dog at some point. I just looked him up and he's got that big circle around his eye, just like your dog.
Exactly. So my dog is a white dog, with black and white dog, with a patch on his eye, and Bones has this, and Bones has like a little pink right around where his nose is, and so does Chewy, and that just makes me so happy. So I absolutely had to have Bones on my island, and I was able to basically invite him using an amiibo and just sort of cajole him into moving into my island. And this morning I finally succeeded.
Okay, you have to explain the amiibo thing. Like, how do amiibo work? I know that this game does like work with amiibo in some way, and I know there are a lot of Animal Crossing amiibo, but I don't really know what they do.
So the amiibos in this game basically are a means for you to personally invite an animal or villager to your island and have them stay on your campsite. And the campsite is an area that Tom Nook asks you to build as a way to try and entice more people to live on your island. So when you have an amiibo, you get to choose who stays in the campsite, basically. And then if you use an amiibo, it doesn't quite work like in the game where they show up and you just are able to invite them to live on your island right away. With the amiibo, you have to invite them for 3 days in a row. And they ask you to craft specific furniture for them over the course of those 3 days. And then on the third day, after you craft the furniture, they're like, oh man, it would be so nice if I could just craft furniture here with you permanently. And then that's when you can, pop the question, do you want to come live in my island? So that's how that works. Oh. Yeah. And I actually think that was an interesting mechanic, just the idea of a campsite in general. And I feel like maybe that's something that's a little bit of an Easter egg from Pocket Camp, because that whole game is like, oh, you're building a campsite, and now here's a campsite on New Horizons.
There was a campsite in New Leaf as well, which had the same function of potential villagers would visit, and you could choose to try and convince them to stay on your island or to stay in your town. But you couldn't specifically invite any character from the game. It would just be randomly showing up, and which still was an improvement in terms of, oh, this is great. I get to kind of have a thumbs up, thumbs down approval on who moves into my town, as opposed to other games where a villager would move in and would be like, okay, this is who I have, I guess.
Do you guys have any villagers that have moved in that you don't like?
Well, I got to talk about the one I love the most first, because I just have to tell you about the beautiful Frida, who was one of my initial villagers. Frida is a brown sheep whose fleece is made out of French fries.
She's the one that looks like a hamburger, right?
Yes, and her head looks like a hamburger, and her face looks like a potato.
This is a look.
And and her legs look like hot dogs with ketchup and mustard on them.
Oh my gosh, what an icon.
Yes, Frida is amazing, and I will never let her leave my island. She kind of has the sisterly personality type, which means that she is always sticking up for you and encouraging you, so she's very nice to have around. And she fills her house with restaurant and food-themed items, which is really adorable. So I absolutely love Frida. I already told you and her Japanese name, I'm looking at her on the wiki here because I had to check some things. Her Japanese name is Wendy, which is a play on Wendy's, which is one of my favorite burgers.
That's funny that they couldn't carry that over into the US version. I wonder if they would have gotten in trouble with Wendy's.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I bet Wendy's would have been very happy to be included in Animal Crossing. That's some real good viral marketing right now. But maybe they don't want to be represented by a weird, obese-looking... What is she? Like a dog or seal?
Raygan, she's not obese. She is a sheep, clearly.
Sheep, those are
with
horns.
Ketchup and mustard horns.
Yes, okay. I just thought,
and she is no more obese than any of these other chunky animals that live on these islands. Raygan, I will defend my love, Frida. Just because she is made of fast food doesn't mean she is obese.
All right, apologies. Apologies to Frida.
So, Mark, did you have any favorite or most not favorite villagers?
My favorite in my town is definitely Poppy the squirrel. She's very cute, very friendly.
So cute.
Yeah, so I'm very glad to have her in my town. Most of the others I'm somewhat indifferent on. Then there's what's his name? Barreled, a like koala bear kind of guy, but he has just really weird 5 o'clock shadow and unsettling lips. He really skeeves me out. So I think Barreled is probably not getting voted off the island pretty soon.
Good lord, I just looked this up because I was curious, and there are 402 recruitable villagers in this game.
That is a lot.
That's a lot.
And considering you can only have 10 on your island, man.
That means there's a very good chance that you and all of your friends will have like unique sets, basically.
This is reminding me of a meme that I saw about Animal Crossing. That's something along the lines of, Animal Crossing players are like, and the quote is something like, "I hate Bill Wibley," He's a total asshole. He burned my crops and killed my family. I want him gone right now. And then it's a picture of Bill Wibley, and it's like a pink bunny rabbit with a heart.
Yeah.
on his shirt.
I just absolutely love seeing everyone's like least favorite villagers because, more often than not, they're like, they're just a little bit ugly. They're not horrifying like the Easter bunny. I mean, sorry, Zipper the rabbit or whatever. But my personal least favorite is somebody I did not handpick to come to my island. I actually mistakenly put a plot down before I went to bed, not realizing that when I woke up the next morning, it would already be sold. And it turned out to be somebody that I accidentally stole from a friend's island.
Oh.
Because this friend of mine didn't want him on their island. So they basically ignored them. And then when a spot opened up on my island, I guess the villager was like, all right, peace. And so I've been yelling at my friend ever since then to take him back because I don't want him.
Which villager is it?
It's hilarious.
Is a squirrel named Agent S.
Oh, Agent S is so funny.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting to see if I need to bully him out, but he just kind of doesn't fit in with the rest of my villagers. But he seems funny, and I walked into his room, and sure enough, it's like a super spy hideout. So I've just been telling people that there's a spy living in my mountains.
Absolutely love this.
Yeah, the game also, I think, beyond the huge variety of characters that you can have on your island, then it really does have just the biggest selection of both items and customization, and you can put furniture outside, which was new in Pocket Camp, and it's learned that from that game. You can change so many things about the exterior of your island, and having that control is really fun. And I think visiting other friends' islands, you can really see then people's personalities reflected in their game in a way that was totally not possible in previous ones, where, my villagers all live on a very rigid grid system. It is perfectly aligned. They get a very small side lot for an item or two. There's one row with all the shops that's by the beach, and then that everything is really planned out, overly so probably. And then Shane, your island is much more freeform, and there's Keef Reef has things kind of just spread around in a way that is more true to the original Animal Crossing games, but you can tell what people are trying to get out of the game in a way that's really kind of satisfying to see represented in this way.
I just wanted all the villages on their side and me on my side.
I do really appreciate that as well, because that you're correct. It's so open that you can really make Animal Crossing what you want it to be, basically. And I think that's a huge draw to it, especially in times like this, where you can just kind of do whatever you want, because you can't do whatever you want out there right now.
Yeah.
And it's really nice being able to visit other people's islands and seeing, islands that are super well organized and thought out, and islands that are kind of more loosey-goosey, islands that are very clearly, specifically for flower hybrids, and islands that are for fruit tree orchards and stuff like that. And I really like seeing that, and I really like seeing how my friends decorate their houses and the kinds of villagers they have. It's great.
Yeah, the intense theming that some people will go through, and people have done this in previous games. You couldn't put furniture outside, but you could drop the the tiny pixelated designs you could do. You could drop those on the ground as tiles. And people would make elaborate towns out of that and spend hours and hours making something where there would be kind of a narrative to their town in a way that was blew my mind in how much effort it would require. But and it was really constrained, and I think this just opens it up to a degree where it's really an improvement that's like each of the other games I think is built on the other one a little bit like a gradual iteration. This really feels like kind of reinventing the game, where it just feels like everything has moved a lot farther forward. And not to mention that the graphics are like actually good for the first time ever in Animal Crossing. And that is a revelation to see like some of these characters drawn in a way that's not extremely rudimentary or on like a 240p screen on the DS or whatever, like that you're actually getting a much clearer view into this world, and that makes customizing things way more fun. I have been theming my house heavily as a tiki bar.
Oh, nice.
And then
that is so cute.
I posted some screenshots in the Discord.
I'm looking at it now and I love it.
Which was very fun to make. But it's something where like, you know, that would be a lot less fun where everything's like a few pixels tall. Like the fish actually look kind of like the real fish. They can do more details, and it's just, I don't know. Graphics improving on games is not anything new, but for Animal Crossing, this is the first time I think it's really had a huge leap. So
yeah, they're also really iterating the gameplay. They've added this whole crafting layer into the game that's never been there before, that incentivizes collecting resources and finding recipes and using those recipes to make things. And it gives you a way to be much more directed about how you collect things, whereas it used to just be, you know, check the store every day and hope that you eventually gather all the items in the set that you want. Now, in a lot of cases, you can get all the recipes and build those items yourself. And it gives you kind of new avenues for gameplay.
And it's something that's been, I was very skeptical of the crafting coming into the game, but it's actually really fun. And I like the mechanic it introduces. Probably my only complaint about it is making things like bait. In that it's like I have to say build each individual one where it's like make 20, just please let me say make 20. I have the materials. But beyond that, it's really fun and charming. And is it practical that I know how to build a working television and not a larger table? No, it's not. But it's still really fun to have, and like nothing in the game totally makes sense. And it's some of those ridiculous things are what makes it charming and delightful and draws people in.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, the crafting element does add something new that I think some people are seeing as a little bit problematic to the game, which, you know, this is a game for kids, and so to read much into it isn't necessarily where I want to be, like the kind of review I want to be doing of a game. But the idea of these Nook Miles tickets, where you go to these unspoiled, beautiful islands that are untouched by man, and then just absolutely, totally deforest them in search of resources, shattering every rock, digging up every tree, and then like catching thousands upon thousands of tarantulas. That is a little bit odd if you really look a little under the surface, but so is literally everything else. Tom Nook has always been a little bit of a problematic figure, and they kind of wink at that a little bit now.
Yeah, the game is it's something where the game has always been very consumerist, and that you're trying to get more stuff and get a bigger house and decorate it fancier and nicer. And you know, now they've really built in, you know, it's colonization, the game, but
it's always had this odd undertone of like wage slavery. Like, is Tom Nook the capitalist oppressor? You know, if you want to read things into the Animal Crossing narrative, you absolutely can, and that has definitely seems to have only increased with this game.
I think Tom Nook is the best capitalist I've ever seen. He charges no interest on your home loan whatsoever, and yet he pays you
whenever
interest
you want
on your deposits in his bank. So I would like Tom Nook to refinance my house.
It's also with a fake currency that he invented, and he kind of kidnapped you to an island. So that's also weird. But, at the same time, everything
But you're
is
loving it now.
Yeah, it's everything is so low stakes in it that I think it all works. Also, Shane, you mentioned the Nook Miles. And
Yes.
that's something which I think was really an interesting addition, that they've kind of explicitly talked about how the game wanted to learn from Pocket Camp, since that brought in a lot of people like you, Anna, who had never played Animal Crossing before. And making it where, if you went from that to one of the previous games, there's overlap, but there wouldn't be a whole lot that's too familiar besides the characters. And so trying to introduce some of the same mechanic of their daily goals, that's really good. And I think it does when they say you have to catch this specific low value bug. Otherwise, I would every time pass it up because I have no interest in catching it, because it's not, it's a common butterfly or whatever.
Or a sea bass.
Yeah. But
More like a C+.
but yeah, it's something which makes these other, it can make tasks that otherwise you wouldn't value as much. It can place new importance on them in a way which I think is actually really great. And I'm surprised at how much I like that addition.
I have been really into putting a stereo in each of the rooms in my house and picking a specific song to play. For example, I have like a kitchen little room, so like I use KK Ragtime for that one, because it's got kind of like, it almost reminds me of like Cooking Mama, where it's like a cutesy piano music. And then I have I forget what's playing in my main room, but it's just sort of like a feel-good thing. And my favorite thing about the music here in this game so far has been finding your villagers singing in the plaza randomly. And if you play a song on like a nearby stereo, they start singing that particular song. Which,
I didn't know that.
That it's like, it's so cute. It is so cute.
Aww.
And every time I see a villager singing in my plaza, I will play a song for them and it becomes karaoke night. And who doesn't love that?
Absolutely. The music in this game always slaps, because
Absolutely.
the wonderful thing about these games is they've always historically, I think even since the beginning one, had big soundtracks with lots of tracks, because they would have one track per hour, and they run the whole game on like a 24-hour clock. So, and in the later games, they've gotten even more extreme with it, where they'll have like a version of the track that plays when it's raining and a version of the track that plays when it's sunny and stuff. So, but at first in this game, you just get the same track playing all the time. And right around the time you're starting to get tired of it, they unlock this sort of overall island soundtrack that plays different songs every hour, which really neat. Just a really, really good music. KK is apparently KK Slider, the character, is based on the guy that did the music for the original Animal Crossing.
Actually really cute.
Cute.
And yeah, like so he like they put him in the game and has become if it's not Isabelle, KK Slider really is probably the face of Animal Crossing that people love the most.
Yeah.
And that is just a reflection of how much people love the music for the game.
Yeah.
I think I knew KK Slider before I even knew what Animal Crossing was. Like, I've just seen that guy so many times everywhere.
I think that's probably in large part due to the fact that his name is fun to say. Like, it's a fun name to say. KK Slider.
Yeah.
And he's got those just killer eyebrows.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, the music, like all of the Animal Crossing games, is really good. I personally was getting a little tired of the intro track before unlocking the hourly music. I think it's maybe one day faster would be really great. But no, the music is so well done and really great to listen to. In my house, in the Tiki Bar, then I'm playing KK Island.
There's a KK Surfin' as well, which might work.
Ooh, I'll have to get that. I know there's a KK Aloha somewhere, so I'm waiting for that one.
This is yet another example of like how I think they nail collecting. I, in real life, collect records. And so in the game, of course, I want to collect all the records.
Yeah.
and they have an interface with like album art for them. I don't think they've ever done that before, which is absolutely just bananas wonderful. You can hang your favorite albums on the wall.
Yes.
It's so
Yep.
KK Country is a real bop.
KK Country. Oh my goodness.
I just looked it up, and there is a Animal Crossing New Horizons OST that someone has, I presume, ripped and posted to YouTube, and it is 139 tracks.
Yep. It's
Sweet.
Before I had unlocked the hourly music, I put some of that on while I was working a week or so ago, and honestly, great music to work to. It's just very relaxing.
Relaxing, yeah.
It's so a lot of them have a real groove to them. No, it's I think just there's always one or two tracks out of the bunch that it's like, this one isn't my jam, and I have to listen to it for an hour. But so that's kind of a bummer. But even then, it's mostly just like, that instrument that they chose, not my favorite. But I think the overall like quality and hit rate of it is amazing.
Well, thanks for coming on The Short Game and talking about this really wonderful and timely and relaxing and beautiful game. It's really terrific to be able to share it with you guys and with our listeners.
And thanks to everybody on the Discord who basically insisted that we cover this. So I'm glad that it happened. I mean, even though I'm not playing it, probably my favorite thing that's been going on the Discord right now has been watching people share things that are happening on their islands in our Animal Crossing channel. And so I don't know. I even if you're not playing Animal Crossing, this has been a fun little thing to look at on the internet that hasn't been the news lately. So, thank you to Nintendo for that.
Very much so. And along the lines of things that are like this game making us happy, we have a little tradition on the show where at the end we like to discuss things that are making us happy this week. So since Anna is on for the first time, I will not make her go first. So Raygan, I'll ask you to go first. What's making you happy this week?
I'll keep this real short because it's actually kind of a reprise, but I wanted to let people know that that the show High Score Girl on Netflix, the anime about it's a kind of a coming of age story that's happening around and in the arcade video game scene of the early 90s, which is wonderful to watch. Lots and lots of licensed video games. They tell the story of this the relationship between this little boy and this girl who are across between like elementary school and high school, and sort of competing with each other at various, like, mostly fighting games over that time. It's a little bit of a romance, but mostly just sort of a friendship story. Anyway, I can't recommend it enough. I talked about it once at some point, but I wanted to let people know that it is coming back for season 2, happening as of the 9th. So I'm rewatching season 1 right now and finding it just as cute and fun as I did before, and also finding that it makes me want to get good at fighting games in just the same way that it did when I watched it the first time. So if you're not allergic to anime, it's one of the best things on Netflix right now. I really, really recommend it. It's just a great little story. The main character is just a terrible little, like, troll, but he's also really warm and sweet. And the whole thing is just really, really well done. And every scene will make you wonder, how much time and work did it take to get buy-in from every single company who released video games in the 1990s to feature their hardware, software, characters, etc. constantly throughout this thing. It's really something. So highly recommend checking that out. And the second season is coming out in a few days, and I'm very, very excited about it.
That's awesome. And it's really interesting that they were able to get like the actual characters and like IP to be able to use that.
Oh yeah, and across tons of different companies too.
Yeah.
So like, the main character, he's obsessed with the PC Engine, and they're constantly comparing that to he's constantly talking up the PC Engine and denigrating the Super Famicom. And I'm like, Nintendo let them use the Super Famicom, its likeness, its logo, a bunch of its characters and games in this anime only to have the main character constantly shitting on it. Like, I'm so surprised that they let...
Is that Netflix money rolling in, or what?
I don't know how they managed this. I know that apparently this is based on a manga, and apparently all of this appeared in the manga first. So I think maybe some of these deals were already ironed out at that stage. But even there, I'm like, how did they swing this? It's really wild. And they do a great job of tying in video game stuff to character and storytelling beats in interesting ways. I think I told this anecdote the last time I talked about this on the show, but the one that sticks out the most is that there's a character that really wants to get closer with the main character. So this little girl really wants him to come over to her house. Because she's into him. She's not that into video games, but she's mostly just into video games because she's into him. And so she knows he likes the game Final Fight. And so she gets the game Final Fight for the Super NES because she wants him to come over and play it with her. And she tells him about it. And then he's like, "Oh, that's awesome. Will you let me borrow it?" And then she finds out that the Super Famicom version of Final Fight was one player only. And it's like, you can't play that one co-op. And it's like, if you know that in advance, you already have this sort of like impending doom moment where like, "Oh no, honey, no. You can only play that one player. I'm so sorry." They do a really great job of sort of tying the video game stuff and the sort of slow trickle of it, because the show, the first season goes from elementary school all the way into high school for these characters. The slow trickle of new stuff happening all the time. It kind of sets it in a place, for me at least, where I remember a lot of these things happening. So it's really neat. Anyway, I'm talking too much. Mark, what's making you happy this week?
For me, I've really been enjoying the reality show Lego Masters, which is a competition of then teams of Lego builders in various challenges. And the show, as you do, you see a new show pop up on your streaming service and you think, I guess I'll give it a shot. I did not have high expectations. Even though I love Lego, I thought it might be pretty cool, but this thing has a shockingly high production value, huge budget, it seems, from the Lego Corporation. The judges are Lego employees. Will Arnett is the host. They have celebrity cameos that have been pretty fun, and the builds and challenges they have are just really amazing to see. They have some really talented competitors, and so I've gotten really into that. I think second to last episode of the season came out this past week, and I still have to watch that, but it's all available on Hulu. So if you have that, definitely check out Lego Masters. It is surprisingly good.
I love how probably all of our what's making us happy this week things this week are going to be indoor kid stuff because, we can't leave.
Well, I'm going to switch that up.
Oh, good.
Because what's making me happy this week is kind of more of like a general idea. I've been really loving seeing people supporting their local businesses through these difficult times. And I say that because I work for a small business. And this week we got tons and tons of online orders for merchandise from places that are not even, local, which is great. And it's really making my heart warm and happy and fuzzy inside. So if you're interested, and I swear I wasn't paid to say this, you can check out Coral Sword at coralsword.com, and our shop is coralsword.com/shop. We've got plenty of cute, nerdy merchandise, just, outside of being a cool coffee shop. So that's what's making me happy.
Yeah, I have to say, Anna has done an awesome job with the merch for Coral Sword. I pretty much live in my Coral Sword hat. Their logo is rad. The t-shirts are really fun. I'm really crazy about this one that has a sword with kind of hearts wrapped around it that they did around Valentine's Day. and there's a new one with like sort of a coat of arms on it that's a limited edition, and all the
Pre-order
profits from that one I
only.
think are and I think that's all the profits from that one are going to help the staff while people are all shut in and buying less coffee. So if you are a Houstonian like me, you can also just drop by there and pick up coffee or growlers of beer to go, and I totally recommend doing so because it's a great place. Let me talk about what's making me happy this week. But I almost don't want to share it, but it is really making me happy this week, even though, like, I don't know this. So I'll give a content warning here. This is the thing that's making me happy this week is a book that's kind of in the historical fiction, kind of in the true crime genre. And so there's murders in it, and it takes place during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and really gives you an idea in some of the chapters of what it's like to live through this kind of warlike atmosphere, which you would not think this is the kind of thing that would help, ease my mind in a time like this, but it actually is in a way, because it shows me, like, there are
Could be worse.
universalities that are happening here. Could be worse. I could get shot, right? But the book is called Say Nothing, A True Story of Murder and Memory in Northern Ireland. And it's written by a historian and reporter, Patrick Raygan Keefe. This is a super, super good book if you have any interest in true crime as a genre or Irish history. It tells its story in such an involving way, where this, all these different characters from different sides of the conflict, their story is told in a way that kind of winds together into this single narrative. And it's all based around this one disappearance in December of 1972. A woman named Jean McConville, who was a 38-year-old mother of 10, is dragged from her Belfast apartment by masked intruders and never seen again alive. And everyone, family, neighbors, all know that the IRA is responsible for this. But this is at the height of the Troubles, and they didn't even open a murder investigation for this. She just disappeared, and no one knew what happened to her or why she was taken, or ultimately what became of her, until many, many years later, well after the end of all the conflict and a peace accord and so on. And through interviews and the stories of her children and what became of them and people on all different sides of the conflict, it takes this one story and makes it just kind of a way into the overall broader conflict. And some of the characters you see in this have truly amazing stories. Like there's this IRA terrorist named Dolores Price, who was arrested in Britain after attempting after a bombing that she participated in. And her story just rocked the media when she and her sister went on a hunger strike in British prisons. And that story is incredibly dramatic on its own, but ties in shocking ways to the murder of Jean McConville. So this is a really, really good book for people who are looking for that, for something that's going to get your mind off of what's going on right now, but also maybe give you that that thing that I think a lot of us do look for in true crime, which is a story that's going to shake you up a little bit and maybe provide you with that kind of different perspective and a bit of mystery. And this one has this added element of really interesting history along with it. So I can't recommend it highly enough.
That sounds awesome, Shane. And thanks to our guests. We have guests so rarely on this podcast. We ought to do it more. I really enjoy it every single time. Mark, thank you again for being a returning guest. And Anna, thank you so much for coming on the show for the very first time. We hope we can have you on again another time. You can find our show on the internet at www.theshortgame.net, where you'll find a contact form. That's a good way to get in touch with us. Let us know what you're playing, what you think would be good for the show. You can also find all our back catalog of episodes there. Don't forget, you can go to the show notes page and search and see everything we've ever done there. Great place, great tip if you don't want to scroll through 200 some odd episodes. And you can, of course, find us on Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/theshortgame or go to our show page and click the Patreon link, that'll take you there. Every supporter at $1 a month or more gets immediate access to our Discord. Discord is where we talk about the show, we talk about the games we're playing, we talk about Animal Crossing, we share our dodo codes there. So join us there if you want in, and we'd love to see you. You can also find us on Twitter. That's @_shortgame. Or you can find me on Twitter. I'm @Raygan K. Shane, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter @8bitshane.
And Mark, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter @MC Bramhill.
Anna, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter or Instagram @Nanapai. That's NANNAPAI.
Awesome. And thank you all so much for listening to The Short Game.